I hate working on a farm. Moira, could we bring up the results of the first one? Interesting jury voting. Excellent. Well done, everyone. I am having some connection problems, but that's what happens when you work undercover. Too many problems. So, at our end, not much has happened here. Yet. Jeanie's family sit around the table glaring at me and Inspector Japp. Like, what did we do? You know, the haggis at this point looks the least suspicious thing in the room, and that's... So the tension in the room is, I would say, pretty high. You know, Francis, he pours himself a large whiskey and he drowns it in 3 seconds. Then he loudly declares, he did not put his hands on his grandmother. Francis loved his granny Jeanie. He worked on her farm. He idolized his grandfather the same way she did. And she encouraged his attempts, and I repeat, attempts, at his own poetry! The butler scoffs. Everyone hears it, but they pretend not to notice. Except Francis, who glares at the Englishman, and he pours another glass. We need to watch him. So the butler, Mr. Nathaniel Melville, tells me and Inspector Japp that Francis, again, is next in line to Jeanie's wealth. And she has built up this persona and fame, you know. He also tells us that the only reason Francis is even still living at home is because of his severe asthma and delusions of fame. Melville then, of course, sneezes, as he does after every time he speaks. Of course, it's pretty clear, you know, he and Francis do not get along. Melville is a fairly new butler. He's only been here for about a year, maybe half a year. He's heard all the stories from his predecessors and Jeanie herself. Carol suddenly gets up and she says, it wasn't her or her husband Gilbert. Between her and her husband, she has shown little sadness of the old woman's death. Now, Carol tells us that Jeanie was a horrible woman. Someone who had little good to say to anyone, and treated her husband, a man who was a war hero, and her own grandson, like dirt. Gilbert shrinks in his chair, letting his wife go on. And then Francis finally tells her to shut up, telling his younger brother to speak for himself. Japp and I are secretly glad. You know, Japp will tell you that he has a mother who won't stop talking. I have a maid. Gilbert was a minor, but he has a minor but still quite effective condition, including, obviously, the fact he has only one arm. He has a condition called chronic fatigue syndrome. Of course, in these times, he's just considered lazy by his family, while his wife can see he is trying his best. So Gilbert lost an arm in the Crimean War from a bullet wound, which places a bit of doubt. You know, wouldn't you need 2 hands to strangle someone, Inspector?
Oh.
I mean, Jeanie was no feeble woman, but she could have easily fought off Gilbert, maybe? The butler interrupts Gilbert by telling me that Gilbert, as a young man, caused a lot of trouble for Jeanie. When he wasn't in his bed, tired, having migraines, he was planning tricks with his little sister Anne. And in his later years, he would escape from the bedroom window at night to court Carol. And I use the word court. You can use your imagination. The butler, once again, sneezes. Again. Maybe someone should give him a handkerchief, but I'd rather keep my handkerchiefs to myself. Why? Anne, now she gets up and tells the butler to be quiet in a very gentle way. Anne, by the way, she's in black clothes, a sign that she is mourning. Why, yes, she says to us. I lost my husband to these wretched fools. There's venom comes out of her mouth. She indicates the butler and both her brothers. Now, before both brothers can speak, the butler sneezes again. So now Anne tells us, apparently there was a drinking game a few months before. Her husband ended up wrapped in curtains, and then he lit a cigarette, accidentally setting himself on fire. Not recommended. Not recommended. Bad way to go. Jeanie made her grieving granddaughter pay for these curtains. Anne managed it by publishing her own reviews on the latest books and published her own poetry. You know, something Francis is clearly jealous about because he can get nothing published, even though he's a man, which means it should be easier. Not very good, Francis. So before Melville the butler can interrupt and sneeze again, Japp shakes his head as a warning. And I ask him about Jeanie and the rules she set for him. So apparently this butler was hired from England as she preferred it that way, as I say. And her main rules are that he must make excellent tea, and that he be with her at all times when she is outside her bedroom. He admits he broke that rule. He admits that, and he doesn't know who it was. He is pretty adamant that it is either Francis, Gilbert, or Carol. He says Anne is too much of a peacekeeper to hurt her grandmother. And again he sneezes, this time over Inspector Japp. You can wipe yourself, Inspector, I'm not touching that. Suddenly, Carol gets up, finger wagging at the butler. She saw him outside talking to Anne. Jeanie was in bed, but so was everyone else. And under the shining moon, that the 24th of January, my birthday by the way, 28, they kissed. Him, being a servant, he's not allowed to do. Anne, Carol thought, as a mourning wife, should have known better. Francis smashes his glass on the table and he jumps at the butler. Carol, Anne and Gilbert rush to hold him back. Inspector Japp wisely gets out of the way. So do I. It's very wise. Melville sneezes all over Francis. It's a great heavy sneeze, and he backs up against the large glass window. By the way, we're on the second floor of Jeanie's house. You know where this is going. Francis easily breaks free from his siblings, and he rushes at the butler. Melville, a little older but much fitter, manages to push him away, only for Francis to jump back up. Gilbert uses what strength he has to grab his brother by the shoulder, telling him not to do something stupid. He is begging him. Carol rushes at his side as Francis slaps his younger brother down to the ground. Anne too goes forward. Now the glass in the window crashes. And before anyone can reach out and save him, the butler falls back right through it, landing in the pigsty outside. And when I rush down, the pigs sniff at Melville's head, and the blood stains in their otherwise neat pile of mud. He's dead, by the way, and now I need new boots. Hopefully the paycheck from this will cover that. Inspector Japp, amongst many love poems, has found a poem by Robert Burns himself that Jeanie kept in her bedroom by her bed. And this poem will be read. I will clear the butler's body. You can thank me later. By the way, this is the final time you get to vote.
A mother's lament for her son's death, fate gave a word. The arrow sped, and hit my darling's heart, and with him all the joys are fled, life can to me impart. By cruel hands the sapling drops, in dust dishonored laid, so fell the pride of all my hopes, my age's future shade. The mother linnet in the brake bewails her ravished young, so I, for my lost darling's sake, lament the live day long. Death, oft I feared thy fatal blow, now, gone, I bear my breast, oh, do thou kindly lay me low within thy love, at rest.